one of the negotiations that you probably want to watch really closely this offseason will be Khris Middleton and the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, it comes down to these two simple things. What number does Khris value himself at today at age 31? And what number does the Milwaukee Bucks value Khris at age 31, coming off of a couple of big injuries? And I think he just went through surgery this offseason again on his knee. So this actually happened right around the time that the Suns acquired Bradley Beal on Father's Day. Khris opted out of the last year of his $40 million deal with the Bucks. So think about that, right? Khris has great representation. I think he's over there with XL Sports, and they're very smart. They're not rookies. They got guys like Jokic, Jamal Murray, and some other big money makers around the association on their roster. They know what they're doing. So for them to opt out of that deal alongside Khris, clearly they believe that there's more money to be had than $40 million a year. Because otherwise, why not just play that next year out on $40 million a season and then go back into free agency at age 32 and go get that big supermax payday? Clearly they believe they could get either close to that, or even over that $45-50 million threshold right now. And that's got to be the reason why they believe to have opted out of the last year of that deal. This is interesting. I'm just watching this one really closely here because the Milwaukee Bucks are one of your perennial title contending teams every year. Let's not forget, the Milwaukee Bucks were the heavy favorite to get out of the Eastern Conference this past year. They got bolted in the first round. And I want to be clear, let's be for real about this. Giannis got hurt against the Miami Heat in the first round. Obviously, that was a big deal. But Giannis, at the back end of that series, came back and I thought played at a pretty good level. He wasn't the great Giannis that we're used to, but he was pretty darn good and had one really great game in there mixed in as well. We've seen Khris Middleton do more against better competition. In my estimations, beating the Atlanta Hawks back in that 2021 Eastern Conference Finals matchup, to me, was a taller task. If you remember the caliber of basketball that Atlanta was playing at the time, that was a taller task than beating Miami to me in the first round. That's my opinion. I do. Middleton was able to do that. Now, since then, since the Bucks won that championship in 2021, it's been rough for Middleton. Obviously, he gets hurt in the playoffs with 22 against Chicago. And I mean, that just changed the entire postseason for Milwaukee. They get bounced in 7 against Boston. And you get Middleton back. And I mean, he had some ups, but a lot of downs last year. I mean, I watched a game in Memphis with the Bucks in town. I mean, Dillon Brooks just locked Khris up. It was the worst game I've ever seen him play. He just was not his normal self last year. He tried, man. So I believe that's why he hurried up and got that knee surgery. He's trying to become that player of old that he was. Can he get back to that guy? I don't know. If you're Milwaukee, do you look at this and say, yo, let me cut my losses, man? Yo, Milwaukee's not a big market team. They have a superstar guy, but if you listen to Giannis has hinted at doing something else, whether it be being a movie star or going to play for a Hollywood caliber team or a bigger market. I'm not saying he's going to leave. I'm saying he's opted out. And keep in mind, this is a made man. This dude stayed and won a championship. There will be no pressure for Giannis to stay in Milwaukee. He's done his end of the deal. Jrue Holiday, by the way, I was listening to him on a podcast. He's been pretty vocal about saying, once this contract is up, I'm gone. So if you're looking at this from the Bucks perspective, if Middleton re-signs at $50 million a year, I mean, the Bucks will be probably, 170, 180 over the luxury tax threshold? There are a lot of more there are some really big penalties for teams going over the luxury tax, even more than in years past. So, I mean, I think watching what happens with Milwaukee and Khris Middleton might be one of the more intriguing ones here. I think they're going to come to a deal. What is that number, though? If Milwaukee can get Khris on a discount based off where he's been at the last couple years, maybe they can go out, because I think the Bucks need to go out and get some dogs, man. I think they've been teetering around the lines, and they've been getting some really safe guys that's going to come in, put their head down and go to work. And I love those guys. I really do. But sometimes you need some dogs in that locker room, too. You need a balance. Every now and then you need a J.R. Smith to come in, a guy that's capable of going and getting you 32 points on any given night that you're only paying $5, $6, $7, $8 million a year. They could use a couple of those guys. And I think it all starts with what they end up paying Khris Middleton, and then obviously they got Brook Lopez, who is a free man as well. What can you bring those guys back on? These are some older guys. Milwaukee's an older team outside of Giannis. Some of these numbers here are going to be important to see what you can build around the Greek Freak. Welcome to NBA offseason 2023. You're in great hands with Hoops FERRO. There's no network behind me. There's no budget behind me. Just straight grind and hoops talk. If you don't want to miss a beat this offseason from trades, free agent signings, and draft talk, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Let's run these numbers up. It's free $99 to show me that you support the grind. Let's go.